What's up, guys? This is Brad with Spike Fitness, and I'm in the gym, Super Gym, hanging out, getting some training. We're hanging out with my man.
Luis, how's it going?
And right now we're going to work on some benching, right? So we got a separate video there. We did some deadlifting, and now we're going to work on his bench. So he is going to perform for us the bench, and we're going to see what we can see. So let's see it. All right, so I see a few things. Do you see a few things? Let's see. All right, so first things first. Setup is fine, right? So how you come onto the bench, that's kind of, it's a unique way to do it, and I've seen people do it before. One of the major benefits for setting up the way that he set up, the camera here, is to kind of get yourself in a good tight position, right? So the idea here is you have your feet planted first, and you kind of screw yourself into where your feet are already planted, and that way you can maintain a good tight shoulder position, right? That's one of the main benefits to setting up the way that he did it, which is good. I like that. Now, on the bench, right, so two things immediately that I see is you have your elbows flared quite a lot. So the more that you have your elbows flared, more that 90-degree kind of angle from your body, the harder it is on your pecs and your shoulders. So you're relying on a lot of stretch on that pec and shoulder. A really great way to pop a pec is by putting a lot of that stress there, right? So what I would recommend is more of a 45-degree angle, right? So tuck those elbows down as you come down, and then as you begin to drive, the elbows will flare to activate the triceps, right? So that flare shouldn't happen until you're already beginning to press, right? And you'll get more power doing it that way, right? Because you're going to be relying on the tricep. Bench primarily, if you're moving for power, bench primarily is a tricep exercise, not a pec exercise. So you really don't want to rely on your pecs too much to move the weight. Really great way to tear a pec. Your tricep is 2/3 of your arm, right? So in terms of what makes up the size of your arm, it's mostly tricep. So you want to be able to use the power of those triceps. Second thing that I saw that was kind of a big deal is your breathing, right? So you are breathing in between every set. So same thing that I've always said is that any unintended movement is loss of power, okay? So if you're moving around or anything happens, you're just giving away position. So for you to get yourself in a nice tight body position and get yourself wound up like a screw, you start to lose some of the benefit by that when you breathe and you let go of that diaphragm. So especially on something like bench, you can get up to probably 10 or more reps without breathing. And so I recommend that. Maintain that big tight breath. Diaphragm's puffed up, right? So you're not gonna allow any caving. And that way you can maintain a good tight body position and not give up position. But so as soon as you breathe, you cave, right? And so you're just giving up some of that position you work so hard to get. So maintain that position. And then there's also some movement in your lower body as well. So I saw some movement. And invariably, anytime that you're exerting yourself, you're going to get some kind of like body chatter, right? Like you're just exerting yourself. But the more that you can wound yourself up like a screw, squeeze the glutes, squeeze the quads, make sure that you've got that good leg drive, you're gonna abate some of that movement, and therefore you're not gonna be bleeding off some energy. It'll give you more power to put into the bar versus trying to control yourself. Does that make sense? All right, so hopefully we can work on these things. I'll demonstrate now some of the things I mean, and he'll hold camera for me here. All right, so I don't set up the way that you set up in terms of coming back. I set up more like this, where I get my shoulders screwed in. I want to have my shoulders tight and back and get as much support from the bench as possible, right? Because otherwise, if I don't, my shoulder's just hanging off into space, and all that weight is just going into nothing. So the more I can get my shoulder onto the bench, the more support I can get from the bench and have a basis from which to apply power. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so shoulders tight first, working my legs into position, get myself my hand position. Okay. Now that I'm in position, I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure to get my upper body wound in a little bit more. So you see me rocking up on my shoulders and then winding my feet in, right? Big breath. Tight. Flare the elbow a little bit. Right, so you're flaring. Tuck. There you go, good. Now flare. Tuck. Now flare. There you go. Good. That feel a little bit different with trying to...
More explosive when I would tuck, turn, rotate, kind of like my wrist out.
Right.
So, felt better. I'm not used to doing the held breath, but I felt like it was easier as well. So.
Yeah, so it's the holding the breath is a hard thing to do, especially if you're not used to it. So I don't recommend that you go from a position of not holding your breath to trying to hold your breath for like 10 reps. So you build up over time. So you may try like 3s, 5s first, and just get comfortable holding your breath. But once you get comfortable taking that big deep breath, you're going to find that it's a much better position from which to drive from. Less stress on the shoulder joint. So just remember, tuck those elbows in. There you go. Drive. Drive. Good. All right, so I saw you working on holding the breath, and I saw you working on trying to tuck the elbow. Does it feel differently than what you were doing before?
I have, before originally how I did it, I had shoulder discomfort. I felt no discomfort at all, and it felt it felt way more explosive from the bottom.
Right. So a lot of us get into a habit of bad patterns, right? Especially if you're just not used to trying to move maximally, right? So part of powerlifting or part of moving maximal weight is maximizing your mechanics, right? And that takes a lot of time and energy to be able to get used to. So if you've never been doing something or you've never really trained where you're trying to maximize those mechanics, it can be really easy to just be in a bad pattern. And a lot of times it takes a lot of time and energy and concerted effort to be able to break bad patterns. So if you're just learning some of this stuff, my recommendation is to stay light for a while, right? I wouldn't recommend trying to get a 1 rep max with a new technique for a little while until you've mastered the technique and that you feel comfortable, performing the tuck appropriately. And you can see yourself, record yourself, make sure that you're staying tucked. And then once you're doing it consistently without really thinking about it, you could look to try to go for a 1 rep max. See where you're at right now is where you were before. You were in a position of unconscious incompetence. In other words, you didn't know what you didn't know. But see, now you're in a point of conscious incompetence. In other words, you know now what you don't know, right? So you need to work on what's going on. But the goal is to get to a point of unconscious competence, right? In other words, you're not even aware of how good you are. So that happens over time. That happens with repetitive training and making sure that you're building the patterns appropriately. So for any of you that are out there, if you're looking to make some changes, start slow, start light, stay consistent, work over time, and you'll be able to get it. All right. So we're wrapping down the bench, right? So we have my man over here,
Robert Douglas,
and have my man over here.
Luis.
And we wanted to try to go over some benches. So we actually finished up deadlifting before, and we moved right into some bench. And so we wanted to separate this out in 2 videos. And so we talked about some specific things with bench for both of these guys. So let's go kind of one by one and talk about some of the different things that we talked about. For you, what did we discuss?
my biggest thing was driving with my hips and working on my arch. Both of them, it completely changed the way that I bench. I'm hoping to get a new PR here soon, and I'm excited.
And you just smoked. What did you hit today?
I hit 305.
Smoked at 305.
With ease.
With ease, right? So he's telling me that he thinks his 1 rep max is 325, and I'm telling him, no. But the important part is the mechanics, right? Getting those mechanics down. So speaking of mechanics, what do we do with you?
For me was my elbows were flared out a lot, a little leg drive as well, and the external rotation of the arm. So before I was just coming straight down, nipple level, and straight up like how I heard for the past few years how you should bench, but instead it was elbows tucked in, come up, and external rotation. So it's kind of like a little
flare those elbows out.
Flare. Yeah.
And we talked about bar path as well, coming low, finishing high.
Yes, and the discomfort in my shoulder that I felt before. Originally, I was working with around like 2 plates for solid doubles, triples. Kind of felt a little chest and shoulder discomfort, immediately today. Benching, it doesn't actually even feel like I benched at all, but the techniques that I felt way more explosive, and I can control the bar better as well. So
cool. So you feel like the tips that we gave made a difference even just one session?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be dropping the weight, focusing on the technique, and I know I'll see some major improvements as well from my rep
Cool.
back, so.
Cool. And Robert, you feel too the changes we talked about in just one session?
Just one session.
Immediate difference?
Immediate difference.
Cool. So guys, just understand that technique is paramount, right? And so I talked about it in a previous video how, you know, stick to the basics and do the basics well. And so part of doing the basics well is understanding what the basics are and what these movements are. So this is a specific point. We're talking about moving maximal weight, right? So if you want to move maximal weight, you need to maximize your mechanics. And so that's really what we're discussing here, is maximizing your body mechanics and putting yourself in the most advantageous position possible to be able to exert force onto the bar, right? Very different than other goals like aesthetics or something like that. So understand that those are two very different conversations. But if you're talking about moving maximal weight, making little small adjustments in your mechanics and your mechanical position, mechanical advantage, makes a huge deal and can make or break your ability to do a lift. Both of these guys right now are constrained by their mechanics. And so, you know, kind of reassessing their mechanics and changing things up is a big deal. And that point about dropping the weight and working the mechanics is a huge point. So if you guys find that you have mechanical flaws, right, you're not performing it as mechanically sound as you could, understand that you're going to have to drop the weight and really build the pattern to know that you're doing that mechanic appropriately every single time without even thinking about it before you should try to wave back up and get to a 1 rep max. You know, learning and understanding and really ingraining those mechanics is a huge deal. All right, guys, that's it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave in the chat box below. Hey, you got some social media, right?
Yep.
All right, so we're going to link your social media in the link below. And then you got some social media, right?
I do.
So we're going to link your social media in the below. You know, give the guys a follow. They're, you know, other service members, so, you know, show them support. They're out here trying to make their lives better through strength to be able to do what they do, you know, protect the country and everything that the country asks us to do, trying to do it more betterest by being more strongerest. So yeah, questions, comments, concerns, leave in the chat box below. Be sure to get back to it. You guys can help me out with the likes, the shares, and subscribes. It would mean the world to me, and I'd appreciate it a whole lot. Thank you guys for watching. Remember, no matter what it is you think you can't do, like increase your bench by even just a little bit in one session, sometimes you can with changing those mechanics. You just got to get in and train despite. You're either going to find an excuse or you're going to find a way, and I hope you continue to find the way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Lost in the desert, wish stayed together.